If you're an active participant in our current market here in Calgary, not only are you probably frustrated with our market, I know that agents are also frustrated. No! 2 weeks ago, we published a video discussing questionable selling tactics in Calgary, and however, we actually had to delete that due to complaints from other agents to my broker at Rio Broker. Although I anticipated the topic would be controversial, I didn't expect such a strong reaction, not only from you, but from other agents as well. But before we dive into that, today we're going to talk about what segments of Calgary has the most momentum, what could prices look like in a couple of months, and why are homes selling for so much over asking price right now, which is exactly what the controversial video was all about. But before we dive into that, the question we get the most is when will we see more homes on the market here in Calgary? Well, let's break this down. We have to look at who are the sellers first, and there's truly 4 different types of sellers. There's someone who's wanting to upsize or downsize their property, so they're gonna stay in the city. Now there's another type of seller that has a rental property, so they have a tenant in it and they have that rental. Someone who is leaving the city. So again, they're leaving, but they're gonna be buying another property somewhere outside the city. And the last one is someone who's probably passed away or moving into a care center. So again, they have to sell, but they might need to find a new place wherever that is going to be, in a care center, for example. And sometimes there's long waiting lists for that. But 2 or even 3 out of these 4 types of sellers are waiting because they don't want to become homeless. And I don't blame them. Typically, in a balanced market, which we haven't really seen since mid-2017 and mid-2019, a seller would list their home first, they would go search for a new home at the same time, and then they would kind of figure it all out and do all of it at the same time. And that gave us inventory in our market. But now this is different. They aren't willing to just put their home on the market because there's not many homes to go and choose from, which is kind of a scary thing. So I go back. When will we see more inventory in our market? Well, let's look at what the last number of years have looked like. So when you look at the inventory and what our market is doing, this is going back to about 2013. The black line there is where our market is currently at. Our inventory is as low as it possibly can be, and I hope it doesn't get lower next year, but this is where we are at. Now, I want to show you some trends that happened over the past couple of years. 2023, we didn't really see that much of an increase, and our inventory stayed really, really low. It did have a little bit of an uptick when we kind of hit the June, July timeframe. Now you go back to 22, you can see the bright blue line that kind of comes up. Hard to see with all these colors here, but the bright blue line, so it started picking up probably March and then tailed off around July. And you go back to 2021, it is this yellow line right here. Again, lots of colors, but in the yellow line, it really picked up kind of April, May, and June. And that is typically when we see more inventory coming on our market. But what makes me a little bit nervous about this whole thing is that last year, the inventory stayed very, very flat. It increased for sure, but it did not just shoot up. That's the first thing. Typically, sellers, there are more sellers coming out. The second thing is we have interest rates that are potentially changing this spring. Now, I know some of you are like, they're not ever going to change. They're going to crash. They're going to go up, like whatever. I'm not here to discuss that. What we can agree on, hopefully, is that Bank of Canada has said that they are planning on dropping rates at some point, which could be in April, May, June. It could be as early as that. Now, if we end up seeing that happening, we could end up seeing more inventory because more buyers, more sellers are coming to our market, which could actually take that green and push it up somewhere into here, which I'm kind of hoping that happens. And the problem that we're having in Calgary right now is there was 2,135 sales in February and only 2,355 for total inventory in the same month. That's 91% of our current inventory sold last month, 91%. So our inventory is so low. So hopefully with one of those two things, the spring or even the interest rate adjustments could bring more inventory as we head further into 2024. Now, knowing where your competition is, if you are a buyer in this market, is critical. The hardest part is knowing that when you enter a multiple offer situation and there are 5, 10, or even 23 offers on that home that you're looking at, there's only one winner. And the rest of the people who offered are going to be fighting for the next home that you're going to want to offer on as well. Out of all the different property types that we have in Calgary, one way to look at what has the most momentum is the months of supply. So if we look at the current demand, months of supply is how long does it take everything to sell at the current pace of the sales that are happening. Now I'm going to rattle off a whole bunch of numbers here, but the city of Calgary is sitting at 1.10 months of inventory. Anything below 2.5 is a strong seller's market, so keep that in mind. Detached homes in Calgary are also sitting at 1.1 months. Semi-detached homes are at 1.6. Townhomes are at 0.87 months, and apartments are at 1.2 months. Now, if we look at the surrounding areas as well, Airdrie is sitting at 1.1, which is the same as Calgary. Cochrane is actually at 2.05 months, so it's much closer to a balanced market than anything else that we're going to talk about. Chestermere's at 1.7. Now this one's pretty shocking because they have gone deeper into a seller's market where this time last year they were flirting really close with a balanced market at 2.4 months. So the market was really heated up in Chestermere. And Okotoks finally is 1.23 months. So the other thing we want to look at is supply. How many homes are there compared to last year? So if we start seeing negative numbers, that means our inventory is dropping compared to what it was last year, which makes it a tighter market. If we see numbers that are going up, that means we have more supply than what we were witnessing last year. So overall, the city of Calgary saw a drop of 14% in total supply from February this year to February 2023. Detached homes saw a 19% decrease. Semi-detached homes saw a 13% decrease. Townhomes saw a 6% decrease, and apartments saw a 12% decrease. All of these really point to there is still strong demand and supply is decreasing. Now, when we look at the other cities around Calgary, Airdrie went down 10%, Cochrane actually went up 3%, and so did Chestermere. It went up 3% as well, and oddly enough, Okotoks actually also went up 9%. So if you're looking in those areas, you're going to find potentially a few more options than you would have last year, and there's still going to be some competition. You're still mainly sitting in a seller's market in all of these product types or areas, but the reality is some areas are seeing a little bit more inventory, but overall in Calgary, we are seeing a big decrease in supply. So to answer the question, where are we seeing the most momentum? It truly depends on who you are. If you're a seller selling a townhome in Calgary, there is a ton of momentum, but you have to be careful of the pricing because any of properties that are sitting about $450 or higher in townhomes, depending on the area of the city, they're going to have a little bit of a harder time because let's say if you're in the north. So Brent on our team was talking to me about this today, where he has a seller who is living up in the, I think it's the middle north part of the city. So not northwest, not northeast, but just north of the zone. And they're trying to sell their property for probably about $480. He wants to get $500. But the thing is, a buyer could go to Airdrie, could go to some newer parts of the Northeast and actually find kind of larger, more affordable properties for the same price as the townhomes are selling. So there's still this little bit of a gap in certain areas, but townhomes are the hottest commodity right now if you're a seller. Now, if you're a buyer, you want the other side. You want the most opportunities and you want to be able to potentially negotiate a little bit. Well, if that's the case, I would actually say Okotoks might be your best bet because they've gone up in 9% worth of their supply and they are sitting in a strong seller's market, but there's more options for you. Now, there are many of you who are watching this that are wanting to make a move. You're wanting to find a new home to grow into, something that you want to downsize into, that you want to make a change and you own a property in Calgary. However, you are probably in the category of the type of sellers that we mentioned before that aren't just willing to list your property until you find something. If we look at the last 2 years of data, because the question we want to answer is what could prices look like in the coming months or by the end of the year. So if we look at the last 2 years of data from December to February of each year, in 2021 into 2022, we had a lot of people moving to Calgary. There was over 7,000 sales over those 3 months that happened. We went from a benchmark price of $481,200 all the way up to $522,000. It peaked in May at $546, but actually dropped down and settled in $520. And if you look at the chart here, you can actually see exactly what happened here. So we ended up having a big increase, but then it settled down. Now, if we go into December 22 to February 23, there was it's still a lot, but 4,142 sales over that time frame. And we went from $518,000, so right about here, all the way up to $530,500. Which is an $11,000 increase compared to the year before was a $41,000 increase. Now, what happened last year was a little bit different. The reason is we didn't see this big spike go up and then it settled down. We actually had much more of a gradual increase over the year. So over those 3 months, we saw about $11,000 to $12,000 increase in benchmark price in the city, but we actually finished the year with increasing all the way up to $570,000, where we started at $518,000. So now, if you look at December 23 to February 24, what happened? Well, we had 5,150 sales in that time frame, and we went from a benchmark price of $570,000 up to $585,000. So that's nearly a $15,000 increase. And as you can see in the chart, that's a pretty big jump. Like, it's small on the chart here, but it's a pretty big jump. So what does that mean? All the while, over all of these time frames, we are seeing our inventory levels decreasing year over year. Now, there are many of you who own a property in Calgary that just aren't willing to list your home until you find the next place, and I don't blame you. If there are less homes to consider purchasing and demand doesn't slow down, we will just simply see prices increase. Let me repeat that, because we will see prices increase. Now, case in point, detached homes in Calgary increased from $697,000 in December 2023 all the way to $721,000 in February 2024. That's nearly $24,000 in 3 months made in equity for detached homeowners in Calgary. If we are currently at $585,000 in all of Calgary, could we see that hit $630,000 by the end of the year? I mean, that's about a 10% increase, but there is a chance if things stay the same way that they are. So I want to go back to the video that I had to delete. Well, this was probably the fastest growing video we ever released. And truth be told, for good reason. I heard you loud and clear. You found the tactics also frustrating. You let me know in the comments. There are agents in the comments saying the same thing. To catch up the rest of you who didn't see the video, I mean, there was over 11,000 of you that actually saw it. There are strategies that some agents in Calgary are using where they underlist a home intentionally for more than $100,000 off of its market value. Now, there's nothing to say you can't do this. And for some, it could be a great option to do this. All I want to say is that consumers look at what we as agents price homes and can assume that we are pricing it at what its value is. What that does, then it leaves the buyer's agents struggling to explain to their buyers that this home is not worth that, and it's a waste of time writing because they won't be able to afford it because that's way over what their budgets are. And it probably will sell for $120,000 over or something crazy like that, based on what the seller is asking. In talking with our team about it all again this morning, we were all agreed that doing this causes a lot of strain on agents and buyers in our market. So, why are homes selling for ridiculous prices over the asking price sometimes? Some of it is because agents are underpricing homes by ridiculous amounts. And the other part is simply because there's a huge lack of supply and consistent demand currently happening in our city. Detached homes increased in value by nearly $24,000 in 3 months. Now, our team spent this morning discussing strategies and ways to help our clients stand out when we are in multiple offer situations. And one strategy we discussed was a way that we can help our clients be able to write unconditional offers with certainty that your financing will go through. And honestly, there were many, many more that we uncovered. So if you're finding this market frustrating and you want to work with us, look for the link in the description and comments to reach out to us. But honestly, everything I told you is pretty much useless if you don't have our current market report downloaded. So head to the description, find that link, and while you're going down there, check to see if you're subscribed if you are finding this content helpful. Then head to this video up here for more stats and insights on the Calgary real estate market.